Greetings. Welcome to Growth Hacking Show. I am your host, Mohammed Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia. Today, my guest is Mr. O. Recluse Billionaire. Because of the economy swings, he has put together all the ingredients that caused him to become a billionaire. Those ingredients are called the 13 Standards of Knowledge, and I'm a student of these 30 Standards of Knowledge. I have joined him almost 4 months ago, and finally, I have earned Mr. O's trust to be my guest on my show. That's such an honor. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, today's Recluse Billionaire, Mr. O. Mr. O, welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. O, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to create a 13 Standards of Knowledge?
In '08, there was a big financial crunch in the United States. It was due to I think it was fraud, and that was in the housing sector, everybody was bundling loans. And then the loans ended up in the hands of hedge funds, and then they ended up on Wall Street. And within those bundles were a lot of loans that weren't good. People weren't paying them, they weren't funding them, and so the whole economy crashed. When the economy crashed, because my assets are in real property, real estate, I was okay, except it takes money to manage that real estate. You know, you have to pay for roads, taxes, streets, curbs, gutters, all that. You have to pay. And so I had the need to get a solid cash flow. I did not have apartment houses or anything that brought a cash flow in. I had property that when I sold it, I would get a big chunk of cash, and then I could reinvest it. Well, when the economy crashes, for a while you can't do anything. And so I needed to create a cash flow somehow. So I searched every kind of business there was to see what would be good. And I realized clear back in the 1920s, when there was a big crash, one thing that people did was entertainment. Back then, there wasn't TV and all that kind of stuff. So they would go to speakeasies and they would drink and they would have parties and things like this. That's what they would do. And they would spend money doing that. Or they would go to the movies back then, 25 cents, $1 to see a movie. Nowadays, it's TV shows that has the entertainment. I found a lady named Oprah Winfrey who became a billionaire with nothing but a TV show that aired in the afternoons for stay-at-home moms. I then thought, if I do a TV show, it could be good. So I then looked at TV shows that has the same genre that I do. In other words, I'm a developer, I'm a teacher, I make things happen, I just don't have a talk show. So then I saw The Apprentice with Donald Trump, who's our current president. I saw The Prophet with another guy. I saw Shark Tank. I saw various TV shows where they were very popular because it seemed that people liked other people's success. They wanted to become successful. That's why they watched all those. So I decided to put together a TV reality show called the Billionaire Recluse Files, wherein I would work with clients such as yourself, Siddique, with the purpose of causing you to become a millionaire or a billionaire. If I do that show correctly, I figured at the time I'd be able to make 50 million a month. Now it's 200 million a month. The reason for that is according to information on the web, the TV show called Shark Tank with the President of the United States that used to be in it, they took home over $53 million per episode after everybody was paid, and they had 4 episodes a month. I've found people that have advised me in the industry that I could do better than Shark Tank. And so I then decided to develop the 13 Standards of Knowledge, which these Standards of Knowledge incorporate everything that caused me or allowed me to gain the wealth and the status I currently have. To facilitate that show, it was important that I had real-time clients, people that actually had success. So I went out at no charge with my money, put ads, the ads in the newspaper back then were very good. So I put ads in the newspaper. I was not a recluse at that time. I met with many, many business people and said, I will pay all the bills. I don't want one penny from you. If you now are worth $1 million, I'll make you a billionaire. Whatever the case is, I'll make you a success. Everybody was happy. Everybody was ecstatic. I signed agreements with them. I went out, and because they didn't have any skin in the game, they had no investment, they had no respect for me. I would show up with a TV truck, with limousines, and they would say, "Oh, Mr. O, can you wait?" They used my real name at that time, of course. "Can you wait for an hour? I'm talking to my mom or my girlfriend or whatever." It just did not work. So then I decided to charge people. I then decided I would charge $1,000. That didn't work. It worked its way up to 10,000, and it works fine. People pay it. And now what I do is people pay the 10,000. I want them to have their money back. I don't need their money. What I need is, I don't need Alzheimer's. I need to keep busy, and I need to develop a cash flow, but I don't need a Mickey Mouse $10,000 or a simple $10,000 from anybody, or 25 or 50,000. My private tutelage now commands 50,000 a person. The Enigma process at this time is 10,000. Very soon we'll go to 15 and 25. Now, so the people pay that money. If they do what they're supposed to do, they challenge me. They want to be a success. There are two ways they get their money back. It's either or in this new system. Number one, I plug them into a program that we own, Enigma owns. They learn the standards of knowledge by working in it. They receive their 10,000 back as a result of profits from that. Plus they make additional profits. So this whole thing is free for them. The second way is, I don't think it'll fail, but should one of those programs fail, and nothing's 100%. If I do 100 programs, one or two of them are going to fail. That's just the way it is. Laws are going to change, your taxes are going to change. Something's going to happen that's out of my control, and they're going to fail. So then they get a piece of the show until they got their money back. So this is virtually free for everybody. They get their money back. I just don't want them to do it unless they're going to stay with it, because if they don't stay with it, they don't get their money back. So that's the genesis of how it started, why it is the way it is, why I charge the money, and what we're doing.
Excellent. As you shared, the billionaire thinks a lot differently than a millionaire and average person. What's the one thing an average person can start thinking on a billionaire level?
A billionaire thinks of things that other people do and makes them better, just like Richard Branson. The people who are skeptical need to see, how did he start up the airline? I told you the story. It's on the internet. So the average person with just a few dollars, my advice would be, I don't care if they have to borrow from their uncle, their brother, whatever they have to do something to improve themselves, invest in themselves. A lot of people are out there, they bust their ass, they're in a job, they've saved up $200,000, they want to invest. They want to invest in a piece of property or a multifamily dwelling or something else. The strongest thing they can do is invest in themselves first. Their mind, the human mind, is the most valuable asset on earth. Nothing would exist except for lions and tigers and bees and butterflies and trees and water and all that stuff if the human mind didn't think the way it is. We'd be like other animals, and we wouldn't be aware of ourselves and what we can do. We wouldn't grow. The human mind is the most valuable thing. And so if somebody's out there and they're only making $70,000 a year, I say they take their money and invest it in themselves. Now, I think what I've got's the best, but they should look around. They might want to go with some other motivator or whatever. But if they really check it out, there isn't anything as good as what we have. Doesn't exist. Can't come close.
Mr. O, a lot of people will be very skeptical because there's no way they can vet you. They do not know you. So who you are.
But how they vet me, vetting me is not important. What is important is to vet the standards of knowledge. They're not buying me. They're buying the standards of knowledge. They're buying the process. They need to vet the standards of knowledge and feel comfortable for themselves how they work. That's the only way. There is absolutely unequivocally no way I will ever divulge myself to anyone. How they vet the standards of knowledge is they attend a free webinar or seminar, combination, and they ask me any question they can about the standards of knowledge, and I answer those questions. If the answers to those questions make sense to the person who's asking them, it is then they make the decision based on that, if that's something they need. You see, I could be a car manufacturer, a car dealer, and I'm selling Fords and Chevys and Plymouths. They might decide they want a Plymouth or a Ford or a Chevy or a Volkswagen. Well, this is the standards of knowledge. So that's what they have to vet, not me.
Great. If someone is very skeptical and thinks Mr. O is hiding, aka not showing himself on a video, could you please share 3 ways to identify if the opportunity to learn 13 standards of knowledge from you is a scam or not?
I can tell you one way. They don't need three ways. They only need one. People vet things for the wrong reason. Young girls will look at people like Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton and others because they're pretty to them and they sell makeup and everything else, and the young girl's ugly and she thinks that's going to make them look good. The person looked good before they even had the products. It has nothing to do with anything. It's fraud. Fraud is a very simple thing to look at. It should be obvious. When people are skeptical, let me tell you a problem they have. When people are real skeptical and they don't learn how to vet something, they go through life in a quagmire and they're never successful. What I mean is you have to take risk, but they're mitigated risk. They're calculated risk. If you don't take risk, you don't make money. It never happens. Everything that's 100% safe, like blue chip stocks, they're fine. You're going to make your 5, 6, 10, 12% a year. That's what you're going to do. But you have to vet. So if somebody wanted to vet Mr. O, they should say, like, for example, Mr. O brags about myself, and there are 4 of us. There are 3 others beside myself, all of whom are recluse. Now, the others are not recluse like me, just in this program. People know who they are. If I told you their name, everybody would know who they are. They're businessmen out there. But they're recluse within this program, okay? And they're there as a backup, and they support me. I can't do all this by myself. The value comes in the concept. So the person who's skeptical needs to say, what's the concept? And I tell them what the concept is. Well, it's for people who are either preppers or survivalists, or people who worry if something comes along like the coronavirus or big riots or anything else, and people say, gee, I don't want that. It's going to turn into a pandemic. They can go someplace away from everybody. They can be isolated and safe. Or if Iran attacks us or something, they can be safe from nuclear bombs. And Mr. O needs to explain it to him in full detail. If it doesn't make sense, they shouldn't do it. They should keep their $10,000. They shouldn't invest their $10,000 because of Siddique or anybody else. Now, as you know, Siddique, you and I have had talks, and as a businessman, you're a very successful businessman, you're concerned about bringing people aboard because of your liability. If they come aboard on your name, then you might look silly if it isn't true. And you should never trust me or anyone else. They should not trust Mr. O. They should trust their own mind. And how they vet is to ask all the questions. If it doesn't make sense to them, they shouldn't do it. Let me tell you something. There are some 2,000 gods out there. If you look on the internet, look for gods, there's 2,000 of them. There's 2,000 different gods. There's all sorts of different religious beliefs. There's all sorts of things. A Christian wouldn't accept Judaism. A Jewish person would not accept Jesus Christ. They would say he was born, but he's not the Son of God. He was a prophet like many other, but he was not the Son of God. So no matter who you are or where you are, you're going to find some people who it just doesn't fit for, and that's okay. If they're skeptical, they shouldn't do it just based on Siddique. If you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. Ask about the projects. Then ask how we do the projects. To most people, business people, it'll make a lot of sense. Siddique, most people out there, the business people you're going to talk to, are in a quagmire. They might be worth $1 or $2, $3 million. And that's all they're going to have. They built it up over 20 years. You know what I mean? They invested in things. They built up this wealth, but they're in a quagmire. There's a big difference between being a billionaire and a millionaire, a huge difference. And it's how we think. So it's all based on thought. The only way that anyone can verify thought is if it works for them, the thought, not the guy who's thinking it, but the thought. Because at the end of the day, our clients, they are the ones that are going to make their own money. They will make it based on their thoughts, what they see. So if they go to buy a new car and they're skeptical about, well, which one's the right price? Am I paying too much or whatever? They have to look at it. Like someone like me, I'd prefer a 1956 car. I'd prefer cars without all the electric windows and the electric door locks, fobs, where somebody can grab my wife out in the parking lot and take her fob and open the car and just steal it. We all have different things that we feel. I want us to sell everybody that we can on these standards of knowledge. And I think it is good for everybody. So again, they should come to a free webinar and they should ask me every question so they feel comfortable. They shouldn't do it because you feel comfortable and I feel comfortable. That's what people did with Enron and Bertie Madoff. Oh man, look at this guy. He's got this big yacht. He's a billionaire. Look how he lives. He's in the country club. He owns a country club. That's the wrong way to invest.
Thank you. Based on my little understanding of 13 standards of knowledge so far from last few months of being a paid client of yours, Mr. O, it looks like this works only in United States of America. Would this concept work in Pakistan, United Arab Emirates, or Saudi Arabia, or a matter of fact, in anywhere else in the world?
It'll work anywhere. Remember when we had the meeting with your friend, and I said to you guys, tell me what's popular in Pakistan. Well, if it's property development, or if it's ideas or concepts or fads, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The standards of knowledge are a process, a way to think. It will work in any country, any language, anywhere. Yes, because what it does, at first, you look at the standards of knowledge and you say, what is the potential of my mind? It doesn't matter if you speak English or Arabic or whatever. The potential of your mind is the potential of your mind. Then you say, do I have abilities, whether it's in Pakistan or here, wherever? How do I discover those hidden abilities? What are they? Let me ask you a question, Siddique. Do you believe that at a young age, anyone can do anything anyone else could do? In other words, if you or I decided to become a pilot, I'm not a licensed pilot, I am a pilot, I fly choppers and I fly jets and planes, but I'm not licensed. But anybody could become a pilot if they studied for it. If they really wanted to, at 14 years old, gee whiz, I want to become a surgeon. They could go to school, go to college, and go through all the things they need to go through and become a surgeon. Any one of us can do anything. Now, can anyone become a billionaire? Yes. A surgeon studies, and a surgeon understands where the hippocampus is and what it does. He understands the left lobe, the front lobe. There are many parts of the brain I can't even say right now without looking at a chart, but he knows it because he studied it. A billionaire is a little different. I tell people that my job is to help them to learn how to think like a billionaire and then act on those thoughts like a billionaire. So when people are looking at doing business with us in Pakistan or anywhere else, United Emirates, they need to think like a billionaire. In a billionaire, we take a leap through space. We move fast. We think different. So where an average guy would think, I'm going to build a service station, I'm going to buy one, and I'm going to keep it real nice and clean, and I'm going to sell gas and sell products and stuff. And he can only work so many hours a week. That's it. That's all he can do. And so he takes his money home and he works and he makes good money, but he's not wealthy. Where a billionaire thinks of, how can I get an idea for 350 major cities with 25 service stations in each one and sell the franchises? So while Imran's sitting in there selling hot dogs and gas and T-shirts every day, the billionaire is selling for $50,000 a piece a franchise to own one of those, plus he gets 6% on it. Somebody comes along and they say, I think I'll set up a real estate franchise. One of the first ones was Century 21. What are the ingredients that all realtors need that I can put together? So we think different. So everybody should be skeptical. Not you say some are skeptical and some aren't. Every single one of them should be very skeptical. And the reason they should be is not because this is a fraud or anything. They should be skeptical of how they themselves are going to accept this and learn it. People are skeptical for the wrong reason. They don't know. There's an orator named Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins is an atheist, obviously, or he's actually an anti-theist rather than an atheist. He, when he explains why he's an anti-theist and a Darwinist to someone whose religion, one of the things he says, if you were born in the Middle East, chances are you're going to be a Muslim. If you were born in South Carolina, chances are you're going to be a Baptist. If you were born in South America, chances are you're going to be a Catholic. We do things and learn things based on our personal environment. A billionaire does not. A billionaire creates his own or her own environment. The Oprah Winfrey created the persona of herself in her show and stayed with it for all those years. Myself, I create an environment of intelligence, an environment of knowledge. So in my businesses, in my teams, and with my partner, we do vast amount of research on the internet. And a lot of students we have are 35, 40, 50 years old. So when they were young and going to school, they had to go in and learn the school books and everything else. Now, even a young kid could get on the internet and find out what it took you and me, Siddique, 6 months to learn. They can get the information in 2 minutes. They ask a question, the information pops up. It's a different world. And so a billionaire of the 1930s, like Rockefeller, who was a robber baron, basically, the beginning. So John D. But John D. Rockefeller. So now, when people become a billionaire, they call it the nouveau riche, the new rich. We have to think in ways that attracts vast amounts of the population to do what we want. And what we want is what they want. So a billionaire now, when he thinks, comes up with a concept.
Excellent. As you shared, the billionaire thinks a lot differently than a millionaire and average person. What's the one thing an average person can start thinking on a billionaire level?
Warren Buffett says it. Richard Branson says it. All the heavy hitters say it. Invest in themselves. And you're offering them one way to do it right now. Improve yourself. Take lessons. Buy a book called New Success Secrets from Siddique. Buy a book called Think and Grow Rich. Look at different motivation programs. There is no competition. There's not another person out there that teaches motivation or training that's a billionaire that gives you the specifics of how exactly you can become a billionaire by following the 13 standards of knowledge. What they need to do is they need to borrow 1,000 from one uncle, 1,000 from someone else, 1,000 from someone else, get $10,000 together, and they can afford $300 a month and get in this program. It's free. You get your money back. If you're not going to study and you're going to be a loser, then don't do it. You're wasting your money. It's like saying, I want to buy a steak each week to stay healthy. And you say, well, what happens? I eat it and it ends up in the toilet. So I'll just step ahead one. I'll just buy it and throw it in the toilet. You know, and that's what people do with their life. They throw their life in the toilet. They're out there, they're spending money on, they're spending their $300 a month on silly stuff like candy bars or going to movies or games or just doing silly things or drugs or alcohol. They're losing $10, $20, $50, $100,000 a month by not having the standards of knowledge. If they become a billionaire, they're losing tens of millions of dollars a month by not having the standards of knowledge. That's the fact. However, just because I say it, it doesn't mean anything. That is not what they should trust.
Mr. O, we discussed a lot. Would you please quickly recap for us?
I would not be doing this with Siddique, Mohammed Siddique, if I didn't think he was a man of tremendous integrity. He is. You can trust him, but I want Siddique to tell you not to trust me. Not because I say I'm a billionaire. That's a bad thing to do. I want you, meaning the people, to ask serious questions about each of the standards of knowledge and about projects we have. So the best thing they can do is invest in themselves. Buy nicer clothes, make sure your teeth are nice, make sure you speak well, make sure you learn a language well. I think one of the best investments out there is the standards of knowledge. Your mind is the most valuable thing you have. Develop it. Every year you waste, you're losing $1, $2, $3, $500, $1 million. You're losing money because you don't have the ability to do those things. Forget Mr. O, just look around you. If you're in Pakistan, I'm sure there are people there who are billionaires. I'm sure there are people there who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and you're not. You both have the same mind. They just think different than you and doing different things. That's what it is. There are a lot of people who inherit fortunes and they lose them because they don't have that mind. They lose the investment, they don't have that mind, and they misinvest and they do the wrong things and the money goes away. There are stories of that in every culture there is. So invest in yourself, get involved with the standards of knowledge, challenge me like Siddique does. I want to make sure this is real. If you didn't keep challenging me, then you would have believed it in the first place. I'm glad you didn't, because if you believed it, you would have sat on your rear end and not done anything. You have to have the experiences to be able to get the epiphanies, the awareness, to be able to develop your mind, to think, and then act on those thoughts like a billionaire.
As we are about to wrap up, Mr. O, what would you like to say as your final words?
Instead of constantly thinking about it and thinking of reasons not to do something and procrastinating, make a decision and do something. That's my final word. Hopefully it's with us, but if not, do something.
Thank you so much, Mr. O, for sharing your wisdom with us today. On the behalf of Growth Hacking Show community and our entire team, we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hello, friends. Now you have a decision to make. There's a link given with this video. Click on the link if you like to have a private conversation with Mr. O and have questions you like to get it answered. That's a complimentary as a gift from me to you. You are welcome to have a conversation with Mr. O based on mutually agreed time. Look forward to serving you. Again, this is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Wishing you all the best in your life. All good wishes.